An agreement signed on the eve of the German Grand Prix will see the Kimi Ringer circuit under construction near the Finnish town of Kosala, 110 kilometres northeast of the capital Helsinki, hosts MotoGP from 2018. The contract was signed by Dorna Sports CEO Carmelo Espeleta and the Finnish Motorcycle Federation president of SML, Tapio Navala, and Timo Pohjola, the Kimi Ring project manager. The 4.6 kilometre track, which will be negotiated in a clockwise direction, will consist of 17 corners, 9 right and 8 left, each different in terms of speed and lines, offering smooth and exciting long straights as well, with lots of overtaking points.
Well, as you know that we had the World Championship earlier in Finland, which ended in 1982, and to come back to Finland is something for MotoGP to come to roots, and we have the heritage of Imatra races. Now when we're building the new Kimi Ring circuit, so MotoGP will be very welcome to back to Finland.
How is the circuit under construction, but what can you say about the project?
About construction, I can say that about 1 year from now we have the asphalt and the main circuit ready, and then we concentrate 1 more year for the facilities.
MotoGP demonstrates the global appeal of the motorsport. What a pinnacle sport MotoGP in Finland and MotoGP, an historical country and an historical sport.
Well, I think MotoGP will be very important for Finland, especially for Finland, because you know that today it's very difficult for all those global series to get them, and we are very happy to join again with MotoGP.
This is a very historical moment for us because we have now MotoGP in Finland after 30 years. We are very happy for this contract, and I think we are going to have very good races in Finland.
What can we say about the circuit? We know it's under construction, Kimi Ring. It's going to be an amazing one, a modern one, we can imagine, but what can we say about this amazing project?
It's very green. It has lots of trees, and it's like, let's say, like Nürburgring, but modern.
The fans in Finland will be happy to be back in MotoGP.
Certainly.
Marquez up the inside. Marquez got a fly.
Second victory in a row.
Lorenzo up the inside. Rossi's back in front. Rossi wins here in Jerez.
Dovizioso, Marquez have crashed in tandem.
Boy, Lorenzo. He's won here in Le Mans.
Disaster for Rossi.
What a move by Hoy Lorenzo. Marquez fights back. Lorenzo's going to have the line.
Unbelievable. Oh, you know he's totally
He
good.
brought down the championship lead. Rossi fights back. The doctor. The master.
It's been red flag.
Oh, Rossi's gone down. Rossi desperately. Miller leads the way. Jack Miller has won here in Assen.
So Italian Leglise Academy rider Lorenzo Dalla Porta surprised no one by claiming his 3rd consecutive win in an exciting Moto3 race 2 weeks ago in Albacete. Marcos Ramirez and Kaita Toba accompanied him on the podium after an intense battle which saw Dalla Porta take the lead on the first lap. He was trailed by Alonso Lopez, Ramirez, Ralph Fernandez, Andy Farid, Izdihar. It was the junior Team Australia Galicia rider that suffered a fall. Carol Haneker back in CV action with Toba joined the leading group. 4 laps to go though. Dalla Porta, Ramirez and Toba made their break that they would hold until the flag. The Italian rider extending his lead in the championship. He has 143 points, followed by Kaita Toba, who is on 80 points in the Junior World Championship.
If you think you're a champion, sign up. With this motivational slogan comes a campaign for all young riders in Asia, Australia and New Zealand who aspire to someday to be a MotoGP World Champion. The selection process for 2017, the Asian Talent Cut, has begun. Online registration. Well, the BMW Award after round 9, we're halfway through the season, and Marc Marquez's 7th consecutive pole in Germany here allowed him to consolidate his lead in the M Award for the best qualifier. The Repsol Honda rider currently leads the points table by 29 points from Valentino Rossi, third fastest in the Sachsenring, with Jorge Lorenzo, who only qualified in 11th, a further 6 points back in third. Marquez well on top in the BMW M Award at the halfway stage of the season here, the Sachsenring in Germany.
Yuma Sasaki, Ralph Fernandez and Alexis Viu enjoyed a great battle in the Red Bull Rookies MotoGP Race 1 at the Sachsenring. The three set off from the front row, but the 15-year-old Spaniards, it was Viu who took the early lead. Third qualifier Fernandez struggled and dropped back into a 9-man pack that fought for the top positions. Viu had a clear advantage in the early sectors of the track. The pack, though, would close him down through the third and fourth sectors. He still managed to lead, though, for 10 of the 19 laps. As always in the Red Bull Rookies MotoGP Cup, it came down to a great last lap battle. Sasaki timing his victory move to perfection, while Fernandez kept it cool to claim second place ahead of the pole man Viu. Kaita Toba and Makar Yurchenko, they were fourth and fifth after this great 9-rider fight. Thrilled a large crowd that had stayed behind after the Grand Prix action to watch the young stars of the future battle it out, three abreast at times in that race. But it was Sasaki, as we said, timing that move to perfection. Drama as always at the final corner. The Japanese rider taking the win, his second win in 5 races, to increase his lead over Fernandez in the championship to 14 points.
And great news for German fans, because they will continue to host a place on the MotoGP World Championship calendar. During the GoPro Motorcycle Grand Prix here at the Sachsenring this weekend, Carmelo Espeleta, the CEO of the MotoGP rights holder Dorna Sports, and ADAC Sports President Herman Tomacek agreed to extend the existing contract by a further 5 years. Germany will therefore be hosting a MotoGP World Championship race until at least 2021. So that's great news. Also, Sachsenring staged the race at this time round, and a new venue probably in 2018 coming along with the Finnish Grand Prix. I think we all welcome the return to Finland in 2018. And looks like Germany's future is secured until at least 2021. Bright days for the fans of MotoGP. It's a very good afternoon to you from the Sachsenring in Germany. Round 9 of the MotoGP World Championship. The halfway stage of the season approaches. This legendary circuit staged its first Grand Prix 26th of May 1927. Between 61 and 72, it staged the East German Grand Prix, and we returned here in 1998 for the German Grand Prix. And we're here today for round 9 of the MotoGP World Championship. And coming up now, what promises to be one hell of a race at this legendary venue. 30 laps of the Sachsenring circuit. In pole position for the 7th successive time, chasing his 7th successive victory, championship leader Marc Marquez, but a big crash for Marquez in the morning warm-up. Hector Barbera puts the Avintia Ducati the front row of the grid. His only second front row start in MotoGP. Valentino Rossi looks to bounce back after the Assen disappointments. He starts from the front row of the grid in 3rd place. And Danilo Petrucci, the rain master, his best ever qualifying in 4th place. So, very good afternoon to you indeed from the Sachsenring in Germany. If you've been watching earlier, the rain has been pouring down for Moto 3 and Moto 2. What is going to happen now? Because as I walked to the commentary box, there was a hint of sunshine in the air. Some of the riders want, oh dear, that's difficult. 20 degrees centigrade the air temperature, track temperature, a fair bit warmer, a big race. It's the halfway stage of the MotoGP season, round 9. Good afternoon to you. Is it another wet race like Assen 3 weeks ago? I'm Nick Harris. Alongside me, Matt Burt, and down in pit lane, Dylan Gray. And I've got to say, looks like the umbrellas are still up. Certain to be a wet race, but a big crash this morning for Marc Marquez.
Yeah, it certainly was. If you were with us earlier on, Marc Marquez, who will start this German Grand Prix from pole position for the 7th year in succession. Huge crash at turn 8 in the warm-up session for the Repsol Honda rider. It was very wet this morning, and he just got his rear tyre on the white line as he was just about to pitch into that left-hander at turn number 8. The rear stepped around on him. Marquez was catapulted quite violently into the gravel trap. His bike suffered extensive damage. Marquez was quite slow to get to his feet, hobbled away. Looked like he got quite a nasty abrasion on his chin as well. But there was no stopping this man in that wet warm-up session. Dani Pedrosa, also a 6-time winner here at the Sachsenring, and he looked in brilliant form in the wet conditions this morning, Nick.
He certainly did, and in the press conference yesterday, Valentino Rossi, who's qualified 3rd, and Marc Marquez both said, look out for Dani Pedrosa. In free practice 4, he was quick. Didn't quite work out in qualifying. It's a difficult time for the riders. The track is drying. It's not dry in any way at all, but it's not the sort of rain that was pouring down in Moto 2 and Moto 3. Dylan down in pit lane, how are we looking?
Well, I think at the moment we are actually starting to get a bit of light rain again. So it's I also thought, do you know what? If it stays like it did after Moto 2, then you think, okay, maybe we get a dry line. But we are now just getting a big cloud over. We are getting some more water down. In a way, I've got to say, I think that might even be positive if it does stay like this a little bit. Now the real dilemma is going to be for the MotoGP riders is which front tyre they should choose for these conditions. It seems pretty much certain that it's going to be the softer option, obviously softer option wet, but with the fronts they can go with the very soft one or the one slightly harder. At the moment, from what we understand, only Redding and Crutchlow might go with the slightly harder one, but as conditions change every minute, I guarantee you will have a few switches on the grid.
And look there at Hector Barbera. What a season for him, and what a performance yesterday.
Yeah, brilliant performance by Hector Barbera. 2nd place on the grid. His best ever qualifying performance in the MotoGP World Championship. First time on the front row since Mugello in 2012, and looking to protect that 100% point scoring record in the 30-lap race.
Scott Redding looked good in the morning warm-up, fresh from that 3rd place in Assen, wearing the sunglasses. I don't think he really wants it to start drying out. A big crash for him on Friday morning, the first of the riders to crash at turn 11. And what about Danilo Petrucci? His best ever qualifying in a comparatively short MotoGP career.
Yeah, 4th on the grid for Petrucci, beating his best ever qualifying, which up to now was a 5th place in Indianapolis. 8th fastest in the warm-up, but you've got a feeling that Petrucci, of course, who does excel in these wet weather conditions, his one and only Premier Class podium came at Silverstone last August at the British Grand Prix. You could just see there on those pictures that we had a peek into the factory Ducati garage. It looks like it's starting to rain a little bit heavier now. Andrea Dovizioso, of course, was running so strongly in that 2-part wet Dutch TT 3 weeks ago when he crashed out of contention.
Yes, his best ever qualifying riding for Ducati at the Sachsenring. He's had 4 top 5 finishes, but only 1 podium. But I think Dylan's absolutely right. I think the riders would prefer it to still be raining rather than starting to dry up.
I think the riders after the warm up, they said, look, this, if it's wet, this is the front tyre that I want to ride with. And as I said, only Crutchlow and Redding decided to go for the slightly harder one. Still not a hard front. It's just the 2 tyres are slightly different. You can imagine that then watching Moto 2 and seeing that it hadn't been raining for a while, I'm sure a lot of them were thinking, maybe we should step up, go just a little bit harder. But now with the heavens opening again, you can argue that any doubts that they might have had, they might say, look, if it's like this, we go to the grid and it stays like this, then you can argue that they will all try and remain with that softer option front choice.
Dre Iannone doesn't have the start from the back of the grid this time round, but he'd be disappointed to be down on the 3rd row. Looked good all weekend, but then he crashed early on in qualifying. He has qualified 9th.
Yeah, he has looked good, Andrea Iannone. Marc Marquez's closest rival on Friday, quickest in FP4 yesterday afternoon, and you'd have thought he was going to be putting up a pretty good fight for the front row of the grid, but that early crash, as Nick said, in qualifying, left him down at the back of the 3rd row in 9th place. It wasn't a great wet warm-up session as well for Andrea, and he was down in 10th place, just over a second off the best pace, which was set by Pedrosa.
Just had a brief look at the Aprilia garage there, and unfortunately Stefan Bradl, the local rider, is out, suffering from concussion after a big fall at turn 7 in the morning warm-up.
Yeah, that is bad news for the German fans. Of course, the 2nd year in succession that they've not seen Stefan Bradl lining up on the grid for his home Grand Prix. Cal Crutchlow was very, very fast in this morning's warm-up session, just 0.05 of a second behind Danny Pedrosa on the LCR Honda. Of course, I remember 3 years ago, Cal Crutchlow put up a great fight for the victory against Marc Marquez here at the Sachsenring.
What about this man, Yoni Hernandez? Remember Assen 3 weeks ago, that first race in the pouring rain? He led the way and he was going away with it. He crashed. Many others did crash as well. He has qualified on that 4th row of the grid, though, in 12th place. But for these riders, a little bit down the grid, it's going to be very, very difficult in those early stages in the spray and in the tight sections of this circuit.
But again, opportunity knocks for some of these independent team riders. It's in these conditions, it makes it a bit more of a level playing field. And they've got nothing to lose, of course. They're not fighting for the World Championship. Perfect time then to come to Jack Miller, who became the first non-factory rider in a decade last time out in Assen to win a MotoGP race. Brilliant ride from the 21-year-old Australian. Made his Grand Prix debut here 5 years ago now in 2011. Race winner in Moto3 here in 2014. And he was pretty quick in the warm-up session as well in the rain, Jack Miller. He was 3rd fastest in actual fact. It was North Honda top 3. Make of that what you will. The top Yamaha this morning was only 6th fastest. That was Pol Espargaro.
Good to see Loris Baz back, and he looked good in the morning warm-up in the wet conditions. Loris Baz, only his 2nd appearance at the Sachsenring. Missed the last 2 races with that foot injury sustained in Magellan. You're so right, Matt. It just gives the opportunity, and you just have a look at Jack Miller in particular. The chance came, he took it with both hands. It may come again. What about this man, Jorge Lorenzo? What a disaster.
Yeah, it's hard to put into words, really, just how bad it has been this weekend for Jorge Lorenzo. He's having an absolute shocker. Had to go into Q1 yesterday for the very first time in his career. He's had 3 crashes this weekend, including 1 in Q1, another one in Q2. He was 20th fastest in the warm-up session this morning. We saw how much he struggled in the rain in Assen 3 weeks ago. Lorenzo was almost 4 seconds slower than Danny Pedrosa. He's already had 8 crashes so far this year. That's the same number of crashes that Lorenzo had in 2013, 2014 and 2015. It's really been, well, it has got into a very tough defence of his MotoGP crown over the last 3 races.
What about Valentino Rossi? He bounced back after the crash in Assen. A very good front row start. Decent record here. 5 wins. He won way, way back in 1999, the 250cc race. The dark horse could be number 26, Danny Pedrosa.
Certainly could. The German Grand Prix returned to the Sachsenring in 1998, 18 years ago. Since then, there's been only 1 wet or full wet MotoGP race here, and that was in 2008, and Danny Pedrosa was leading it by 7 seconds, and he won't want me to thank me for reminding, but he crashed at the first corner. Dylan.
Well, talking about Danny Pedrosa, I'm down here with Livio Suppo. Livio Suppo, I think we're just saying Danny could be a real dark horse for this race. He's looked really comfortable so far. You know, what do you reckon? Could this be Danny's first win of the season?
That's wood. Sure, this morning in the warm-up it felt good, but now the weather is very, very strange. It's difficult to understand if it will stop raining or continue, so it will be a difficult race for everybody, I guess. But yeah, sure, this morning felt good.
What about Mark? Obviously, he had a really nasty crash. He was holding his chin after the warm-up. How's he feeling now?
He's okay, and of course, it was a big one, but I think Mark, you know, is that kind of rider that, you know, after a big crash can come back and be strong immediately.
Thank you very much, Livio.
It's interesting. Everybody is slightly worried about the weather. You know, it might start just drying out a little bit. Certainly have a look at Jorge Lorenzo there. No chance of that whatsoever. It's 30 laps. I think the weather conditions are quite warm, aren't they, Dylan? Which obviously helps the dry track if the rain stops.
Yeah, I mean, you know, well, yes, I mean, warm considering how cold it's been so far. You know, it's probably what, about 18-20 degrees Celsius. So it's yeah, it could dry up, but it's not going to dry up quickly. You know, we don't have really lots of sun coming through. It's not, you know, it's not like Sepang where you actually see the water vapor coming off the actual track. So I don't believe it will dry out quickly because of the conditions. But we know how much power these MotoGP bikes produce. We know how much heat they lay down onto the tarmac. So you could arguably get a dry line forming if it really does stop raining. And you know, it's spitting right now, but it's so inconsistent. I think that's the real worry for the team. It's not that it is wet. It's just so inconsistent.
You're right about those front tyre choices as well for the Yamahas. And it was in Assen, of course, the first rain race we've had in this new Michelin tyre era, and it was Yamaha that really did struggle. Rossi crashed out of the lead, of course. Bradley Smith also crashed. Lorenzo was completely bereft of any confidence in the front end of his Yamaha. The only shining light for Yamaha last time out in those rain conditions in Assen was Pol Espargaro, who equalled his career best result of 4th place. So it'll be interesting to see for some of the new wet tyres that have come here for Yamaha, just giving them a bit more of a confidence-inspiring feeling in that front end, because it was tricky for them in Assen.
Scary, those statistics you came up with about Jorge Lorenzo. Here's the man as the world champion, the man that was joint leader of the World Championship. He's won 3 Grand Prix this season, but his confidence is in tatters at the moment.
Yeah. And he's making mistakes that he doesn't normally make. The last time Lorenzo crashed 3 times in a weekend, he hasn't crashed 3 times in a year before.
Speaking about confidence, guys, I'm going to bring you down onto the grid here with Jack Miller. Jack, obviously these conditions, the world is watching after what you did in Assen. I'm sure they have high expectations, but being realistic, you know, what are the conditions like out there?
Special. I mean, compared to this morning, different, a lot less sitting water, as we saw at the end of the Moto2 race, and it looks like there's not going to be many more showers, but it's going to take a bit to dry this track. But no, like you say, a lot of people watching. I mean, all I can say is be smart with your money, don't bet too early, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Obviously, front tyre choice key. You know, Bridgestone have brought a couple new fronts. For you, is it an obvious choice? We understand that you first elected to go for the soft. Any thoughts about going up one step harder?
No, we're on the C now. We changed from the super soft, and yeah, it just seemed that one was really soft, but now you know, for this afternoon it seems to be like a lot less still water, so the tyre is going to get a bit hotter. So the hard seemed like the safer option for the 30 laps.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jack. Good luck.
Yeah, Livio Suppo was right about Marc Marquez, wasn't it? Those sort of crashes just do not affect him. He came to a very moving 1 minute silence for all the violence around the world at the moment. All the riders stood in and he had to hold an ice pack on his chin because there was blood coming out of his chin. Yeah. A real old whack at turn 7. And these conditions, they make mistakes, and it was a big mistake by Marc Marquez.
Yeah, completely unforced error by Marc Marquez. You know, the riders know how greasy you can be offline on the white lines, on the curves, Dylan.
Yeah, guys, I'm just going to bring you down here with Nicolas Goubert. Nicolas, I think a big dilemma for the front tyre that we've got here. Jack just told us he's switched to the C option, so should we say the harder of the soft ones? Is that quite a common trend?
Not yet. I mean, most of the guys have still got the B on their bike, which is the extra soft. They will. I think they will wait until the last minute. It will be a gamble, you know, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to rain slightly or not. So it will be, you know, mixed choice for the grid.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicola.
Yeah, mixture for the grid. And what have we got? Just under a quarter of an hour before the start of round 9 of the MotoGP World Championship. 30 laps at this Sachsenring circuit. As you saw, the German Grand Prix is guaranteed until 2021, but the actual venue is still not been sorted out, and it would be a terrible shame if Sachsenring went off the calendar.
Just caught a quick glimpse of Valentino Rossi, of course, as ever. Massive support for the Italian wherever he goes in the world. He was the last non-Honda winner here back in 2009. He's good in the rain, of course, Valentino Rossi, winner of that British Grand Prix at Silverstone last August, and he was leading in Assen when he crashed out. Big dent in his championship challenge. And what about Danilo Petrucci? Jack Miller talked about a bit of money going on him for the race. There'll be quite a few pounds and euros and dollars going on Danilo Petrucci around the world, because we know that he is an excellent wet weather rider. He said he doesn't like it when it's wet though, because everybody keeps asking him, it builds the pressure, because people keep saying, well, are you going to win?
Yeah, they certainly do. And Petrucci, of course, second at Silverstone in the rain last year, going really well in Assen when he had a mechanical problem. Paul Espargaro, what a season he's having, and a tribute from his Tech 3 team, of course, based down in the south of France after the atrocities in France at the beginning of the weekend. But what a season Paul Espargaro is having, and I think just shown by that brilliant fourth place in Assen.
Yeah, put up a great fight for his first ever Premier Class podium against his old Moto2 foe, Scott Redding in Assen. Conditions that Suzuki won't be too happy to see here at the Sachsenring, because it was a real struggle for them in those wet conditions in Assen, and Maverick Vinales and Aleix Espargaro had a real tough time in the warm-up session this morning. Vinales, who we're looking at now, was down in 15th place, Aleix Espargaro 19th. Vinales third from pole position here in 2011. He was third again in 2013. Not having a bad season. In fact, Assen was the first time that she's finished outside of the top 6 in his second MotoGP year.
Pretty decent, isn't it? And of course, he led the way after Friday afternoon here in not similar conditions, because it was cold and not so wet, and a big crash for him at turn 11. Dylan.
Yeah, guys, you were just talking about Suzuki. I'm here with Davide Brivio. Davide, obviously, last time out in Assen didn't go quite to a plan. Do you feel you've now found something here in Germany for the wet?
To be honest, we still have to work on for the wet condition. Of course, based on Assen and based on this morning, we trying to improve. It was a good test this morning, but I don't know, we will see in a race. We still have work to do on this condition. Now we improve the traction control based on this morning comments. Also, the rear grip is a little bit an issue on a dry, and looks like it's coming bigger on the wet. So we trying different things, and this race are a good test from this perspective.
Obviously, today is all about front tyre choice. Some guys opting for the slightly harder one. Have you gone with the softer still?
Yeah, we're still on the softer, and we're still thinking what to do. Of course, it's a big gamble, but yeah, we're still thinking now.
Okay, thank you, Davide.
Here's Andrea Iannone, qualified on that third row. As we said, a crash in the qualifying for him was a shame. He's really running well. Fifth in Assen, starting from the back of the grid. Fifth place here the last couple of years as well, the top Ducati. So he's got a good record here, certainly in MotoGP.
Good to see Sebastian Ogier here, the 3 times WRC champion. Master of 4 wheels.
You might need him when somebody gets a bit out of shape out on the gravel and out on the grass. Boy, were there some crashes in Moto2 in that amazing race.
There were. There is Dani Pedrosa then, fastest man in the wet warm-up session this morning. Bit of work to do though from 10th place on the grid for Pedrosa. 2004, 2005, a 250cc winner here at the Sachsenring. And then 4 times a winner in the Premier Class. There is Jorge Lorenzo, 11th place on the grid. Never ever won here at the Sachsenring. Second from 2009 through to 2012. And he's had some unhappy times here in the past. A crash in FP2 back in 2013, rewrote the collarbone that he'd done in Assen just a couple of weeks before. Been a tough old weekend. Crash at turn 11 in FP1.
Worst qualifying since the Dutch TT in 2013. That's when he originally broke the collarbone and flew home to Barcelona and came back and rode an amazing race. Dre Dovizioso, mixed all season. I think he's kicking himself for Assen because he was flying at one point, wasn't he?
He was. It was his 4th DNF in the last 6 races. Of course, not all of those non-finishes through his own doing, but Assen certainly was. Yeah, he looked well set for a podium fight in Assen, did Andreevich, so he's a very competent wet weather rider. In fact, his only Grand Prix win in MotoGP in not too dissimilar conditions back in 2009 at the British Grand Prix at Donington. Here's a man who fancies chances, Johnny Hernandez. He's one of those riders on this grid that's got absolutely nothing to lose. He can go gung-ho. Of course, led for 9 laps in Assen, Dylan.
Yeah, guys, I just want to bring you a quick tyre update whilst it's fresh in my mind. So the people that have now decided to go a step harder on the grid, from what we know so far, Bautista, Iannone, Miller, he's already told us that, Tito Rabat as well. Marquez had initially changed onto the C, but has now actually gone back onto the softer option front.
And still time to change. We have just under 3 minutes remaining before the start of the MotoGP race. And there's Carmelo Espeleta, really the man behind the success of MotoGP and celebrating his 70th birthday. MotoGP has a lot to thank Carmelo Espeleta.
Guys, I'm just going to bring you onto the grid once more here with Paolo Ciabatti from Ducati. Paolo, very interesting strategy for you guys that you now have Iannone with a slightly harder front and Dobby with a slightly softer front.
Yeah, we'll see how it works. Obviously, now it's not raining so much, but if you look down there, it's so dark. I think it's going to rain a lot during the race. So let's see. Difficult to predict what is the right choice.
Okay, thank you very much, Paolo.
Yeah, difficult to predict. Not ideal situation for any of those riders, but the rain is still falling down. Bradley Smith not had the easiest of times, 14th on the grid. There's an all-British 5th row, Crutchlow, Smith and Redding, but looked a little bit happier, didn't he, in the morning warm-up in the rain?
Yeah, he did. Bradley Smith was 11th fastest this morning. A couple of 6th place finishes here at the Sachsenring in his MotoGP career for Smith, one including in his rookie year in 2013. Last year as well. He fought his way into the top 6. In the middle of that, though, of course, was that unforgettable, well, very forgettable, actually, 5 crashes in 2014.
We're in Germany. We're at the GoPro German Grand Prix. Round 9, the MotoGP World Championship.
Danach lasst uns alle streben, brüderlich mit Herz und Hand. Einigkeit und Recht und Freiheit sind des Glückes Unterpfand. Blüh im Glanze dieses Glückes, blüh, deutsches Vaterland. Blüh im Glanze dieses Glückes, blüh, deutsches Vaterland.
Well, the German Grand Prix also confirmed until 2021. Great news. Scott Redding, he will love these conditions after Assen.
Yeah, he will. Scott Redding, a great Dutch TT, his first ever MotoGP front row start, converted brilliantly into that 2nd Premier Class podium, following up that second he had at Mazzano in the flag-to-flag race. There is Jorge Lorenzo, down in the middle of the 4th row of the grid. And he was so slow this morning in the wet warm-up session. 20th place, 3.9 seconds behind Dani Pedrosa. A bit like it was in Assen, really. Damage limitation for Lorenzo in terms of the championship. 24 points he is behind Marc Marquez going into this 30-lapper.
5 minutes before the start of the 30-lap German Grand Prix. Round 9, the MotoGP World Championship. The halfway stage approaches. Marquez up the inside.
Marquez got a fly. 2nd victory in a row.
Lorenzo up the inside. Rossi's back in front. Rossi wins here in Jerez.
Dovizioso, Marquez have crashed in tandem.
Boy, Lorenzo, he's won here in Le Mans.
Disaster for Rossi.
What a move by Jorge Lorenzo. Marquez fights back.
Lorenzo's going to have the line. Unbelievable. Oh, you know he's totally
He brought down the championship lead. Rossi fights back. The doctor, the master.
It's been red flag. Oh, Rossi's gone down.
Rossi desperately. Miller leads the way. Jack Miller has won here in Assen. What a great question. What next? Can Miller do it again? What about Marc Marquez? Has that big crash in the morning warm-up affected him as he chases his 7th successive victory here at the Sachsenring? There's tension in the air. Valentino Rossi closes his eyes. The riders do not like these conditions. They're worried about the state of the track. Here we go. This is what the tyres they've chosen. So they look like, certainly the front row, have all gone for that softer option. Valentino Rossi has qualified 3rd place. 5 wins here at the Sachsenring. Hector Barbera, what a performance. His 112th MotoGP race, only his 2nd front row start. But in pole position, his 7th successive pole position here at the Sachsenring. As he chases his 7th successive victory, it's Marc Marquez. So it's a very good afternoon to you from the Sachsenring in Germany. I'm Nick Harris, alongside me Matt Burt, down in pit lane Dylan Gray.
Front row Marquez, Hector Barbera and Valentino Rossi. Row 2 Petrucci, Pol Espargaro and the Suzuki man Maverick Vinales.
Row 3, could there be a big surprise here? Andrea Dovizioso, Aleix Espargaro and Andrea Iannone. And in the 4th row, Dani Pedrosa, Jorge Lorenzo and Yoni Hernandez.
Row 5 headed by Cal Crutchlow, 2nd this morning, and all British 5th row. Crutchlow, Smith and Redding. Dutch TT winner Jack Miller heads row 6 ahead of Laverty and Bautista. Row 7, Loris Baz and former Moto2 world champion Tito Rabat. Of course, 20 rider field this afternoon, with the unfortunate news that Stefan Bradl absent from his home Grand Prix for the 2nd year in a row after getting a concussion in a heavy warm-up crash this morning.
So here we go, final sighting lap for the riders. Front row Marquez, Hector Barbera and Valentino Rossi. Just let them clear pit lane, and our final word with Dylan, just how he thinks the conditions are looking. Dylan, what do you reckon?
Well, it's there's no rain at the moment. If it stays like this, the track certainly will dry out, and the guys that have gone with the slightly harder front tyre option could benefit. However, as some people have rightly pointed out, there are some dark clouds about, and from what we've seen all day long, there's a lot of risk that it will start raining again. But do you know what? This race is going to be extremely unpredictable.
93,000 fans here today in these conditions. No wonder the German Grand Prix signed up to 2021. MotoGP loved in this part of the world, and we go to Austria in 3 weeks' time, and I believe all grandstand tickets sold out and a few general tickets on sale. MotoGP absolutely on the crest of a wave at the moment.
Yeah, we're heading to Scandinavia, possibly in 2018. Finland, of course, interested in getting on the calendar. It's all about the present, though, here in Germany. As Dylan said, I think unpredictable, the buzzword around the Sachsenring at the moment.
Again, it's going to be about the weather, isn't it? How quickly will it dry out? It's very, very wet out there at the moment. Interesting what Dylan said. These machines, though, they help dry a track, don't they? They're big brutes. They're big heaters, aren't they?
They are. What about Cal Crutchlow? What about Jack Miller, Danilo Petrucci, Scott Redding, Pol Espargaro, Bradley Smith? They'll all be looking at this race as a great opportunity to steal some of the limelight away from those top factory riders.
This is the helicopter shot down at turn 12, now coming back towards the start, finishing. You can see it's still pretty wet out there. What I will say from the helicopter shot, you could actually see the circuit at the start of Moto 2 and Moto 3 when the helicopter was up there. It was obscured in cloud. Here is Marc Marquez. Big crash for him this morning at turn 7. Yeah, just looked like he'd really hurt himself for a minute, didn't he?
Yeah, he was very slow to his feet, just pumping the brakes there, trying to get some temperature into those steel discs. Of course, no carbon brakes used in the wet conditions.
So 20 rider field, no Stefan Bradl. Round 9 of the MotoGP World Championship. The halfway stage of this incredible season approaches. Marc Marquez in pole, chasing his 7th successive win here in Germany.
Good launch from the middle of the front row by Hector Barbera. Rossi got away well too, as did Marc Marquez. Rossi, though, will have the inside line. It's the Italian just getting his nose white, though, by Marc Marquez. Marquez, the pole man, leads. Rossi pushed out a bit wide. He stays in 2nd place. Petrucci up to 3rd.
Yeah, Petrucci almost got through on Rossi as well, didn't he? Wise, he didn't try to make a move. Down to the bottom of the Omega curve. Through the spray, Marquez leads. Rossi coming under enormous pressure. Danilo Petrucci about hanging on well there in a third place. Is it Andrea Iannone that's got up the inside of him? If it is, it's a great start by Iannone.
I think it's Dovizioso in third. Rossi had the inside line at the Omega corner. He took the lead from Marquez then at turn number 3. So it's Rossi that leads down through this turn number 7 for the first time. Coming up to turn 8, where Marquez crashed in the warm-up this morning. Dovizioso's a man on the charge. He's up the inside of Marquez at turn number 8. Dovizioso then up in a second place. He's come from 7th on the grid.
Dovizioso means business, pushes Marquez out of the way. Then they plunge downhill now, the two lefts, and then down the right, down the waterfall, aptly named today.
Jack Miller is up from 16th place into 8th. Miller's the man on the charge. Can Dovizioso make a move? Petrucci's up the inside of Dovizioso. No, he's made a move on Marquez though. Marquez pushed back to 4th place by Petrucci. Rossi under pressure from the two Ducatis.
Up to turn 13, final corner, 29 laps ago. Marquez fights back through turn 13. It's Rossi, though, that leads the way after the first lap here in the spray at the Sachsenring. Down towards turn 1 they come. Dovizioso thinks about it on the brakes and then decides plenty of time. Petrucci fights back against Marquez. Marquez holds his 3rd place.
Jack Miller is up into 6th place. He's picked up 10 places on the opening lap of this race. The winner in similar conditions 3 weeks ago at the Dutch TT in Assen. Jack Miller already up 10 spots. What about Jorge Lorenzo? Lorenzo's down in 11th place. That's where he started this race. Danny Pedrosa, haven't mentioned him. He was quickest in the morning warm-up. Pedrosa in 9th, making no real impression off that 4th row of the grid.
Yeah, and disappointing also for Scott Redding down in 17th place, who had fancied himself in the rain.
Yeah, also remember the likes of Petrucci, Miller and Iannone, they are all a step harder on that front tyre than Rossi, Dobby and Marquez.
So, Valentino Rossi, 5 times winner here at the Sachsenring, leads the way. He won way back in 1999 on a different circuit to this one. Wasn't as long when he won the 250cc race. Here comes Dovizioso up the inside.
Yeah, can't quite find a way through as they plunge down the waterfall. Aptly named corner in these conditions here at the Sachsenring. Again, Dovizioso just thought about a move up the inside, but Rossi so strong on the brakes. Petrucci back into 3rd against Marquez with that hard front tyre on. Petrucci just has a bit of advantage in the braking zone. Marquez fights back again at turn number 13. This is a move they've already exchanged a couple of times in this race. Hard but clean from Marquez.
2 laps gone, Rossi leads the way. There is Hector Barbara, and just behind Hector Barbara, would you believe, it's the 21-year-old from Townsville, Australia, Jack Miller. And behind him, you just got a glimpse then of Andrea Iannone.
Miller, the fastest man on track. There you can see on your screen, 1:35, 1:77, 4/10 of a second quicker than Valentino Rossi. Rossi doing what he did in Assen, leading the race. Johnny Hernandez has crashed out at the final corner. The man who led for 9 laps in that part 1 in Assen 3 weeks ago. It's ended in the same result, unfortunately, for Hernandez. He's on the floor at turn number 13. Lorenzo then up inside the top 10. He just made a move on Maverick Vinales. The Suzuki struggling again in the wet. Vinales 11th, Aleix Espargaro 12th.
They plunge down through turn 7 to turn 8. This is where Marquez crashed this morning, where Jorge Lorenzo crashed yesterday. Rossi still leads the way. This is the corner that Dovizioso likes. He likes it up here. He's going to try to get up the inside of Valentino Rossi. Here he comes again. Has he made it stick? Side by side, Dovizioso leads as they go down the waterfall for the 3rd time.
Dovizioso got brilliant drive coming out of turn number 8. Just swept up the inside of Rossi. No problem whatsoever. So Dovizioso leads for the first time. Petrucci's been strong on the brakes down into turn 12. He pushes Rossi back to 3rd. So Rossi in 3 corners has gone from 1st to 3rd. Miller's made his way through on Barbara. Jack Miller then up to 5th place. Andrea Iannone still right in this podium battle. Iannone's got 2.7 seconds up on Pol Espargaro. What can Rossi do then? Can he fire back against the 2 Ducatis?
Over the start and finish line they go. 27 laps ago, already a super race. Here comes Rossi up the inside of his great mate Petrucci. Thinks second about it. 7 riders really in with this one. Petrucci now has set the fastest lap of the race. A 1:34.929 for the Pramac Ducati rider.
Dovizioso was a little bit wide going into that first corner. He was able to pull it back to the apex. No way through for Petrucci, but Petrucci now glued to the back wheel of that factory Ducati. There is Johnny Hernandez. A short push back to the pits after that crash at the final corner. Jack Miller then next in his sights will be Marquez. As Petrucci all thought he was having a look at the inside of Dovizioso. That was brave and ambitious. Bit of a twitch for Dovizioso as he got on the gas, asking for the power coming out of turn 6. He didn't lose the lead though. This is the sector of the circuit where Dovizioso's been supremely strong.
Certainly is. They come up to turn 8. So these left-handers uphill continue to climb. The top of the hill is 9 and 10, then the plunge down turn 11. He's absolutely superb here. So you can see he has pulled a few metres on Danilo Petrucci as they get up to turn 8 and 9. But Petrucci's good on the brakes. Look at him down at turn 12. Valentino Rossi's favourite overtaking place. Will Petrucci come? Here he comes!
Yeah, brilliantly up the inside of Dovizioso. You've got to be good on the brakes to outbrake Andrea Dovizioso. He's one of the latest breakers in MotoGP. No problem though for Petrucci. He leads the German Grand Prix. Pramac Ducati Joy at the moment. It's the GP15, last year's factory bike for Petrucci that leads this race.
And guys, just a quick word, Johnny Hernandez did come jogging up pit lane. The team had his second bike ready and he's just heading back out on track.
34.3 last time around for Petrucci. 0.7 of a second quicker than Dovizioso. The fastest lap again from the Italian.
He is on fire. Danilo Petrucci led the way in Assen, then had his mechanical problems. Second, you remember, behind Valentino Rossi in Silverstone in very, very similar conditions. Missed the first part of the season with a horrible hand injury.
We had an independent team winner for the first time in 10 years last time out in Assen. We've got an independent team rider leading this Sachsenring race. It's Danilo Petrucci. He probably thought he should have been in this position in Assen a few weeks ago. In that part 1, he set the fastest lap of the race. He's great in the rain. Only mechanical ruled him out of the second race. Petrucci now, he's already been able to stretch out just over 0.4 of a second over Dovizioso.
There's Jack Miller, Hector Barbera behind him. Jack Miller in 5th, Hector Barbera 6th. You just got a glimpse of Andrea Iannone. I think it's Dani Pedrosa, is it, closing up on Iannone? It certainly is, but he's 3 seconds down on the leaders. Dani Pedrosa is good round here and good in the wet conditions.
Yeah, Dani Pedrosa's probably with his weight, just having to wait a little bit longer than somebody else, gets to get a bit of heat into those tyres. We've seen Dani Pedrosa so often come on really strong in the second half of the race. It's still an awful long way to go here in Germany. 25 and a bit laps. This is Scott Redding up the inside of Jorge Lorenzo at the first corner. Just made Lorenzo pick up his knee. Well, it's down at the Amiga turn, actually, for Redding. End of lap 5, then it's still Petrucci that leads the way. Dovizioso now quickest on circuit with a 1:34.2. Rossi just 0.3 of a second slower that time. And it's just settled down now in this lead group. They're sort of holding station a little bit. Petrucci from Dovizioso, Rossi. Miller just closing up a fraction on Marquez.
I think they've just sounded out the conditions a bit, don't you? They're just settling into some sort of rhythm now. Dovizioso looks pretty comfortable in second place. Rossi quite happy in 3rd. I think they're just by their time. Marquez as well. Miller's done what he made out to do, and that was make a good start and get in with this leading bunch. You might have a quiet period of calm for a couple of laps. Probably not. But let's just wait and see as they go down through turn 7. 24 and a half laps to go. Andrea Iannone, if only he'd made a better qualifying, only hadn't crashed in qualifying, he could have been right up there with him. And there is Dani Pedrosa. Let's keep an eye on him. 4 times MotoGP winner here, 2nd in the last 2 years.
Yeah, Pedrosa, he's just over half a second behind Andrea Iannone. There's Pol Espargaro, who will be coming under pressure again from Redding. Those two had a great battle for the podium in Assen last month. Pol Espargaro in 9th. Miller now the inside of Marc Marquez. Jack Miller then is up into 4th place. Just thought he might be running a little bit wide. Pulls it back through turn number 12. We've seen Marquez retaliate a couple of times on Petrucci at turn 13, but Miller's got the edge.
He certainly has got the edge, and now Marquez is coming under pressure from Hector Barbera, and you've got to say, Assen deja vu the way he went past Marquez that time round.
Well, we think it hasn't really rained since the start of the race, so that's why the guys that would have gone with that harder option front tyre, as Miller told us on the grid, they'll be generating too much heat for the softer guys, and that's not going to play into their hands. The guys that did choose a Dobby, Rossi, Marquez, they will actually be hoping for some more rain.
Petrucci's good in that final sector. Last time around, he took almost 0.3 of a second out of Dovizioso. Hector Barbera just running a fraction wide through the Amiga corner. So next, can Miller hunt down? Looks like actually Scott Redding was just taking Pol Espargaro for 9th place at turn number 3. The gap between Miller and Rossi is 1.1 seconds.
Petrucci still leads the way. Say his best ever result in the rain at Silverstone last season. that Pramac Ducati.
Yeah, there's that harder front tyre option, so he'll have the endurance out of it. Once he's got it up to temperature, which he obviously will have done now on lap number 7, can't shake off Dovizioso though.
Dovizioso's made the same choice, hasn't he, Dylan?
No, Dobby's on the B. He's on the softer option.
Sorry,
so is Rossi. Miller is on the harder. Mark is on the softer. Barbara softer. Iannone on the harder.
Right. So here is Petrucci. Has he made the right tyre choice? He may well have done, because as Dylan tells us, it has stopped raining. Rossi now closing up on Dovizioso. Probably a little bit of aware that he doesn't want Petrucci to get away at the front.
Well, there's a long way to go, 23 laps. Rossi has just put in his best lap of the race, a 1:33.9, 3/10 of a second quicker than Petrucci last time around. So Rossi still well within a second. Marquez is out wide. Can Hector Barbera squeeze through on the Avinci Ducati? Not quite enough room. Marquez is out very, very wide though. Iannone coming under pressure still from Dani Pedrosa. Redding's breaking away from Polispargo in 9th.
Not looking 100% happy, Marc Marquez, is he? At the moment, we ride with him as the battle for 5th. It's Hector Barbera who started from that middle of the front row of the grid. That's the battle. Marquez, as we said, chasing that 7th successive win here. We ride with him, right in his face.
But as it stands with Lorenzo down in 13th place, he will be still increasing his advantage in the World Championship. The man who's desperately trying to claw back some crucial points will be Rossi in 3rd place at the moment. Pedrosa, has he got up the inside of Iannone at turn number 8? No, not quite close enough. You feel though that Pedrosa's going to be lining up a move very, very shortly on the factory Ducati. Has he got through this time? Yes, he has. Sweeps majestically up the inside of Iannone through turn 9.
Brave place to overtake coming up the hill. Very fast left-hander, turn 9, and he's through. Back at the front, turn 12, as they bottom out from the waterfall. And it's still Petrucci that leads the way. They run along the bottom, and this uphill turn 13, the comparatively short run to the line. Rossi now is got the 2 Ducatis firmly in his sights when they cross the line 22 laps ago. We're not even at 1/3 distance yet.
Yeah, and these three have started to make a little bit of a breakaway from Miller. The gap between Rossi and Miller now, it's up to almost 2 seconds. Marquez and Barbera are piling the pressure on Miller. They've just put in their personal best laps of the race. The gap between, Barbera's through on Marquez. Well, he had a good look last time around at Hector Barbera. This time he's made it through. The gap between Marquez and Dani Pedrosa then now as they come through the first sector. We'll just keep a close eye on that as we look forward from Marquez to Barbera. The gap between Marquez and Pedrosa is 2.3 seconds, so a bit of work to do for Pedrosa to get inside that top 6. There's Crutchlow, who's just moved inside the top 10 with a move on Polispargo, who's dropping back through the field a little bit.
Yeah, Crutchlow up now into a 10th place. Yeah, Polispargo, as Matt said, dropping back. He almost had the leaders inside at one stage. Let's have a look what happens here. Here is Crutchlow. This is coming into turn 1. It's a brave old move to ride around the outside at turn 1 in those conditions. Great move by Crutchlow. Did fall at turn 1, didn't he, in practice?
That was a bold move by Crutchlow. It was for 10th place, back at the front. 21 and a bit laps to go. Is there just a little bit of a dry line appearing there as they drop down through that waterfall? The water definitely will be being dispersed. There's not been a lot of rainfall for a bit of time now, but with Petrucci with that hard option front tyre, he'll have a little bit more braking stability. Lorenzo, this is a good old Spanish fight for 13th, not the position that they want to be in. Lorenzo, Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales. That Suzuki really is a hard bite to conquer in the wet conditions, not threatening the top 10 again like it has to.
Important for Lorenzo to continue. Any points he picks up could be a bonus at the end of the season, because his season will turn round. You're not a world champion like he is for it not to happen. Just having such a tough time at the moment. So Aleix Espargaro goes past Jorge Lorenzo into turn 1. There's nothing he can do. He's now being hounded by Maverick Vinales. 21 laps to go. You can't believe, can you? This is a battle for 13th place.
Back on board with Dovizioso. Still can't get within 0.4 of a second of Danilo Petrucci at the moment, is doing a great job. Different front tyre options though on those top 2. Petrucci on the hard front tyre. Dovizioso on the soft. I think over the last couple of weeks though we've seen who are the real rainmasters in MotoGP, because last year at Silverstone the podium was Rossi, Petrucci and Dovizioso. In part 1 in Assen, the top 3, Rossi, Petrucci and Dovizioso. Okay, none of them finished the second part in Assen, but those 3 really are Three of the most accomplished riders in the wet conditions, and Miller has dropped now 2 seconds behind Rossi, so desperately trying to keep himself in contention for a second successive podium, the 21-year-old Australian.
Tremendous battle going on here. Scott Redding, Andrea Iannone and Cal Crutchlow.
Crutchlow's on the charge, actually, isn't he, to be fair to him, on the LCR Honda. Iannone's really struggling. You can see Redding, he's going to have a lunge up the inside. Cal Crutchlow might take both of them yet. Iannone, if you'll excuse the pun, was a bit of a sitting duck there at the final corner. He's out well wide as well. Look at the drive Crutchlow got. Crutchlow was up the inside of Redding and Iannone, and he's just put, what, 7, 8, 10 bike lengths between himself. Crutchlow is the man on the charge.
Certainly is. We saw him ride round the outside, didn't we, earlier, of Pol Espargaro going into turn 1. He seems to have got some remarkable drive on that LCR Honda.
He's going to be kicking himself, Crutchlow, because he just couldn't get going in the first couple of laps. Didn't seem like he had the confidence to push. Oh, Petrucci! It's Danilo Petrucci has crashed out of the lead in the German Grand Prix.
Oh, Petrucci out. Looks like he is out as well. Turn 3, down at the bottom of the hill of the Omega curve. Slow right-hander. Let's have a look. Oh, lost the front end pretty early on, didn't he?
Was he just, I mean, it was a fraction. If he was just a fraction offline, there was absolute dejection and despair in the Pramac Ducati garage. Gravel being kicked out all over the circuit. Petrucci back on track. What it's done is put this man at the front of the field. And ready. Oh, Marquez has had an off-track excursion as well. Is that at turn number 8 or turn 9?
Turn 8 for Marquez at the bottom of the hill. That's where he crashed this morning. So problems for Marquez. Let's see where he's going to come out of it all. Petrucci out. Marquez running on in the gravel. He does an amazing job to hang on to that bike.
Cool. All of his dirt track skills coming to the fore there for Marquez. You can see there he has a good long look over his shoulder. You know he swept through. Dovizioso is the race leader. He's about to come over the line to start lap number 12. Dovizioso's advantage over Rossi, 1.6 seconds. Dovizioso last time around was over a second faster. That's what it's done to the championship battle. Marquez at this stage only taking 5 points out of Lorenzo. Barbara now's moved up the inside of Miller. So Barbara then up into 4th place, and he's got Rossi in his sights for a podium.
Yeah, just get a glimpse there of Valentino Rossi. This is where Petrucci crashed out of the lead on the last lap. They're at the bottom of the hill. They start to climb up around the left-handers at 5 and 6.
Of course, with Petrucci out, that battle with Barbara and Miller is now for the podium. Sorry about that one.
It is.
So it's Barbara then now in 3rd place.
There is Rossi in 2nd place. Turn 7, 18.5 laps ago. And there is Danilo Petrucci.
Guys, you'd be very interested to hear that Loris Baz's bike, they've just actually fitted some intermediate tyres to it.
Oh. It is all happening there. Flames from Danilo Petrucci's Ducati. We ride with Jack Miller.
Yeah, Barbara's already taken 0.4 of a second out of Miller.
And he's closing up on Rossi, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it's definitely right about a mechanical problem. He needs to jump off that bike pretty quickly because it's on fire. He won't know that probably. It's about to get very, very hot underneath him.
There we go. Fire extinguishers in
pit
pit lane.
Back. He can go out on his spare bike. Yeah. He'll look back and see that there's a fire there.
Andrea Dovizioso, dare we say, is never going to have a better chance than to take his 2nd ever MotoGP Grand Prix victory. It's going to be a hell of a battle, though, because Hector Barbara and Jack Miller are closing on Valentino Rossi in 2nd place.
Yeah, just hope that there was no liquid coming out of Danilo Petrucci's bike as he was going around there. What about the gap between Rossi and Barbara? It's just over 1 second. 1.8 seconds is Dovizioso's advantage. Dovizioso, Rossi, Barbara. This was the move that Barbara made on Miller, down on the brakes into the 1st corner. Nicely done. This track's drying up. You can see it quite clear. There's dry lines appearing here.
Yeah.
You've actually got mechanics now by the bikes here in pit lane. There are.
Oh, look at the dry line. Sorry to cut in, Dylan. We're looking down. I think that's turn 7, isn't it? And you can see a real dry line appearing, and then a stream going across the track when they come to the bottom of the hill.
It's a dry line appearing. We haven't even reached the halfway stage. We've still got 17.5 laps of this race remaining.
Look at it now, Matt. Look at it now.
And this is so interesting because we are getting mechanics, you know, they're getting the number 2 bikes, should we say, ready for dry/intermediate conditions. Lorenzo's bike still has wet discs on it. You've got Rossi's bike, he's already got the carbon discs on it. Walking down here, there's still, you know, an awful lot of confusion here in pit lane as to which bike they should potentially prepare.
Exactly, do you put Inters on it or do you put slicks on it? What a dilemma for some of the teams. There's Marc Marquez, who after that off-track excursion at turn 8 is back in 9th place, putting pressure back on Iannone. Now Crutchlow's up into 6th place now, hunting down Pedrosa.
Good ride by Alvaro Bautista behind Marquez in 10th place on the Aprilia. Is that problems for Iannone?
It is. Well, you know he's coming in for a bike, isn't he?
Oh, he's coming in?
Yeah, he's coming in.
Iannone's in.
Yeah, he's coming in for a bike change.
First man in, Dylan. Andre Iannone.
Yes, and he's got intermediates on the bike. He's the first man out on intermediates.
Well, he was the only rider, remember, that tried them in Assen. He's got experience of these intermediate tyres. He's not happy about something, but Andre Iannone has got, I think he did, what, 7 or 8 laps in practicing at Assen on the intermediates. He's looking there to sweep across the track, come into the pit lane. Dylan.
He's made his mind up early on. Look at those dry lines appearing now. Dylan, you're the tyre man. How long do those intermediates last? Because there's still a long, long way to go in this race. There's still 16 and a half laps.
No, they definitely can last until the end. It's more, you know, it's more to do with how much heat they actually generate, how much heat you can generate with them. With the intermediates, you should be more worried about getting onto a patch that's too wet rather than too dry. So with dry, you can manage it with the throttle kind of like a slick going off very quickly. But if you get somewhere that's just a little bit too wet, that's what could be the big problem.
Well worth the risk for Andre, you know, and he was in 9th place, not going to be fighting for the victory, and he's the only rider in this field. Well, he's the rider in this field with the most experience on the intermediate tyres. Rossi now is under real pressure from Barbara. They're coming through turn number 13 to complete lap number 14, and Hector Barbara could be heading to 2nd place. He made a brilliant move on Miller on the brakes down into the first corner. Can he do the same on Rossi now? Barbara moves out of the slipstream. Has he got the inside line? He certainly has. Is he brave enough on the brakes? He certainly is.
Hector Barbara into 2nd place. He is a demon at turn 1.
Well, guys,
Barbara fancies a win here, I tell you. Sorry, Dylan.
No, guys, Rossi's mechanics had his bike ready with intermediates to a go. So what you're going to see is now a lot of teams, every time their rider comes round, they will be ready with the bike started, with the tyre warmers off, just in case they do want to come in and change.
Well, this is going to be absolutely fascinating, just because the riders have got such limited experience on the intermediate tyres. And to try them for the first time in a full race situation, what a risk, Dylan.
Yeah, and this is now Loris Baz. Loris Baz now the 2nd person to go out on Inters.
So, Baz and Iannone, look out for their lap times. Dre Dovizioso ploughs a lonely furrow up front. What is going through his head? He has got to make some big decisions. All the controversy in Formula 1 at the moment about radio back to the pits and everything else. There's only one person that makes the decision in MotoGP. It's the rider. And there are going to have to be made some decisions because the rain is staying out. And as you can see, as they come towards turn 12, the track is starting to dry.
It really is now. These riders out on full wet tyres, they're going to have to start looking for some of the damp patches just to try and stop those rain tyres from overheating. They'll quickly overheat on the dry track. Barbara's pulled away fairly comfortably from Rossi. Dovizioso's coming over the line. His advantage over Barbara then at the start of lap 16 is 2.3 seconds. Barbara was marginally quicker last time around than Dovizioso. Dovizioso, the lap times are running pretty constant in those mid-135s. Crutchlow, again, he's the fastest man on track, Crutchlow. He's just taken 5th place from Danny Pedrosa. Crutchlow did a 1:34.7. He's the only rider in the 1:34s at the moment, Crutchlow.
Here's Dovizioso. He's very experienced. He is a MotoGP winner. He is a world champion in 125, runner-up in 250s. His brain will be working overtime at the moment, exactly what to do.
Well, we're at the exact halfway stage of the race now, Nick, and look how much the track's dried in the first half. How much is it going to dry up again in the second half of the race? That's what the teams, the riders, certainly going to be judging. Here's Andre Iannone on the intermediates. Let's keep a very close eye on the pace of Iannone on those intermediate tyres. He's over the line that time around with a 1:40.5, so that's about 5 seconds off the pace of Dovizioso. He'll still, of course, be tentatively feeling for where the grip is on those intermediates, trying to get them up to optimum working temperature, and as Dylan said, try not to get on too much of a wet patch and risk crashing out.
Dovizioso will be looking for some puddles, won't he, just to try and cool down those wet weather tyres. Here is Hector Barbera, middle of the front row of the grid, first ever MotoGP podium beckons for the 28-year-old Spaniard.
The man with the pace in this race is Crutchlow. There he's at the top of your picture. He's closing right in now. Loris Baz has come back into the pits. I'm sure Dylan will be keeping a close eye on what's going on there. Oh, he's got a problem. I don't know it's an issue. We've pointed straight down to the rear tyre. That looks like it's race over for Loris Baz. Crutchlow then is over the line. The gap between Crutchlow and Miller, it's down to just 0.8 of a second. Dylan.
Yeah, sorry guys, this is something I didn't see before. Baz had actually had a front intermediate and the rear was actually a slick. Unbelievable.
Well, there is Jack Miller hanging in there in fourth place at the moment. Dovizioso, Barbera, Rossi, Miller, Crutchlow absolutely on the charge. 3 years ago he almost won this race, Cal Crutchlow, riding for the Tech 3 Yamaha team, and Crutchlow finished in second place. He's on the charge, but this is gonna be so much about tyre choice, when to come in, when not to come in. Look at that dry line. It's getting drier and drier out there. As you watch, you can almost see the track starting to dry out.
Yeah, Crutchlow's got in the groove. He just had such a bad start. Shouldn't be too surprised. He was second to Danny Pedrosa in the warm-up session this morning. It's Dovizioso, Barbera, Rossi, Miller, Crutchlow, Pedrosa, Redding, Marquez, Bautista on the Aprilia in ninth, ahead of Pol Espargaro, Vinales, Laverty, Aleix Espargaro, Lorenzo and Rabat. There your points. If you look at Dovizioso there, he was right offline, trying to keep these wet tyres cool. He was nowhere near the normal racing line. He was just desperately looking for damp patches to keep some coolness in those wet tyres. He's doing it again. Look, he's not on that dry line.
Perfect example, wasn't it? Because as you bottom out after the waterfall, there's almost a stream that runs across the track, trying to keep those tyres cool. Ross is doing a good job, isn't he? Just hanging onto the back of Barbera at the moment, just waiting to see everything pans out.
Yeah, they're still those lapping pretty comfortably in those mid-135s. The lap times aren't dropping as the tyres do deteriorate a little bit. Look at all the teams.
Marquez in to switch.
Thanks a lot, Dylan. Yeah, Marquez then has come in. Was that a slicky?
Was that slick in the rear?
Intermediate front, slick rear, medium slick rear for Marquez.
Wow, he's certainly, well, taking a risk isn't the word, but putting his neck on the line a little bit.
Well, let's keep a close eye then on their lap times. Certainly have a quick check on Andrea Iannone as well when he crosses the line, of course, out on the intermediates. He hasn't come over the line as yet. Bradley Smith's come into the pits as well. He's changing bikes.
Here is Rossi hanging in there in third place, just seeing how things work out. Bradley Smith is in.
So with Bradley Smith, from a distance I can see that's intermediate front and intermediate rear.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if Rossi comes in, he still has an intermediate rear mounted to the bike as well, so he would be inter.
Right, okay, well, Andrea Iannone is over the line now. Rossi's fighting back. Rossi fights back up the inside of Hector Barbera. How many times has he made that move on the brakes down into turn 12? Rossi back into second place. Is Rossi thinking about coming in?
Let's have a think. Well, would he have overtaken if he'd done? Here comes Crutchlow up the inside of his great mate, Jack Miller. Crutchlow is absolutely flying on that LCR Honda. Cal Crutchlow now up into fourth place. Rossi crosses the line in second. Barbera, Crutchlow and Miller chase Dovizioso down into turn 1. 12 laps to go.
Pol Espargaro's crashed out of this race. The interesting lap times last time around. Andrea Dovizioso 1:35.8. Andrea Iannone on the full intermediate combination a 1:36.9. So the difference now between the full wets and the intermediates is about 1 second. There's Pol Espargaro crashing at turn number 2.
I think he's scored points in every round, doesn't he, Pol Espargaro? So that could be the first time, though he probably can get back into the race.
Marquez then out on the slick. There's Pol Espargaro crashing out at turn number 2. Front end just washing away. That could cost him his 100% point scoring record this year. There is still an awful long way to go in this race, 11.5 laps. We've got all kinds of tyre combinations out there. The lead group still out there on full wet tyres. Andrea Iannone is out there on intermediates, and Marc Marquez is out on an intermediate front and a slick rear.
This is Valentino Rossi. He's on the wet weather combination at the moment. Yeah.
You can see on the left-hand side, 10 left-hand corners here, and Rossi's left-hand side, that wet front tyre was definitely starting to show a bit of wear.
Crutchlow closes right up on Hector Barbara. Getting drier and drier there. Telling Rossi to come in. They're telling Rossi to come in on his board. Crutchlow thinks about turn 13. Dylan.
Yeah, sorry guys, I made a mistake with Marquez. He's actually front slick as well, so it's front slick and rear slick.
Right slick on both of Marc Marquez there.
Yeah, Rossi's seen it. He had a good look to his left there, and he's seen box, because what the team know is they're looking at the pace of the likes of Andrea Iannone. What there's no difference really in lap times between Iannone and Rossi at this stage. If it continues to dry, then Iannone's tyres will have the advantage, and of course there might not be no difference in the lap times at this stage, but Rossi is going to be overheating and wearing those tyres way too much, so that they're quite right to call him in, and they would have been keeping a very close eye on Andrea Iannone's pace on the intermediates, and certainly Marquez on the slicks.
Yeah, and guys, so with Scott Redding, I did see that close hand. I can confirm they are both intermediates with Scott Redding.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of that dry line. This is they come down towards turn 7. Dovizioso must really be thinking, no, I'm going to have to do something. This is not going to last for 10.5 laps. There's Eugene Laverty in and out of the pits.
They've got to get Rossi in to try and get him back out on track position ahead of the likes of Marc Marquez. Well, here you go, you've got to come in. Andrea Iannone just set the fastest lap of the race on the intermediates, a 1:33.8. Last time around, Andrea Iannone was 2 seconds a lap faster than this lead group on the full wet tyres. That is the clearest indication. Rossi, surely, he saw the board, we saw him take a long glance to his left. What will Dovizioso do? Is he going to come in as well? We're pretty convinced that Rossi is coming into the pits this time around.
We are about to find out. Turn 13 approaches. Looks like Dovizioso is carrying on. Rossi...
He's got to come in, Nick. He's got to come in, surely.
No, Rossi carries on. Hector Barbara behind him. Kyle Crutchlow just there. We ride with Valentino Rossi. 10 laps to go up towards turn 1. And Barbara now fighting back.
Well, I wonder if they actually... I mean, Box was on the board. I wonder if they actually gave him the signal to Box, or they've just left the call to Rossi. What do you think, Dylan?
I think that they're leaving it to him, because obviously they put down Box, but ultimately that's just them saying, we're ready for you. You know, it's not them necessarily telling them. But what is interesting, so with Rossi, oh God, they've just changed tyres, and I haven't seen that. He might now have a slick on it. I'll try and confirm. Dobby definitely still has inters on his number 2 bike. With Rossi, I'm going to have to try and double check that.
You've got to come in. Marquez on the slicks has just crossed the line of 1:31.055. You know, Yamaha made this mistake in Misano last year. Honda called it absolutely perfectly with Marc Marquez in that flag-to-flag race. Rossi and Lorenzo, they stayed out a couple of laps too late. Marquez now is almost 5 seconds a lap quicker than this lead group. All of the top 5 still out on the full wet. Surely they've got to come in.
They must come in. 8 and 9 they're at. 10 coming up, and then they plunge downhill through 11. You can see how dry the track is becoming. 12, and then will they pull in? Marquez just surges past Jorge Lorenzo. Quite effortless on the slick tyres, not intermediates, he is on slicks. Surely that leading 4 are going to come in. We're about to find out.
And guys, Rossi's bike still has inters on it. The number 2 still has inters.
Yellow flags at the final corner. I think that's for a crash for Tito Rabat, so no overtaking there. They're going round again.
They're still out there, and they're closing up on Andrea Dovizioso all the time.
They can't believe it. They can't believe it. They must have given him the box sign. Frustration there. It was Brent Stevens waving his arms in the air. They thought Rossi was coming in. They know. They've got all the information at their fingertips. They've seen the pace of Iannone on the intermediates, and certainly of Marc Marquez. We need to see Marc Marquez. Look at Andrea Dovizioso's, the left-hand side of that front wet tyre. It is ripping itself to pieces. It's just overheating. They've got to come in. See, Marquez is just down to the 129s. He's 6 seconds a lap quicker now than the guys on wets. He's 26 seconds behind Dovizioso. 9 laps to go. Marquez can just win this race on those slick tyres.
They've got to come in. They have got to come in, yeah. Maverick Vinales in and out. Was that intermediates or slicks?
Yeah, so that was intermediates. Looks like Suzuki intermediate. We're just seeing Tito Rabat and Danny Pedrosa go out on slicks.
Sorry, Dylan. I wonder how much time you lose in the pit lane, because Marquez is 26 seconds behind Dovizioso. If Dovizioso comes in, you must be losing 25-30 seconds on a bike swap. Marquez could actually be leading on the road.
Down they come towards turn 12. We have just over 8 laps remaining. The track is visibly drying. There's even a little bit of watery sunshine now. There is Barbara. There is Cal Crutchlow. There is Jack Miller. And Barbara runs it a little bit wide, and Crutchlow comes through. Are they coming in this time round? It doesn't look like they are. Are they going to stick it out?
We've almost got some sunshine peeking through the clouds now. He's gone again, Rossi. He's gone round again. Dovizioso's board is saying boxes. Well, they have gone round again. Dovizioso on the last time around was a 1:35.3. The man to keep a close eye on, though, is number 93, Marc Marquez, because he's on full slick tyres on a rapidly drying track here. Marquez, then, he'll be coming over the line very, very shortly. Dylan.
I think the only thing which these guys might be thinking is, look, this dry line is extremely tight. If those guys stay on it, for anyone on slicks to actually pass them, they would have to be on that dry line. So, you know, the guys with the wets, if it did come down to the last couple of lets, could arguably maybe block those guys, because the slicks, they cannot go off that line.
Have Honda pulled off an absolute coup here by getting him in and putting him on slick tyres so early. He's got a beautiful clear line at the moment on the dry track, but Dylan is so right. They won't make love. They're trying to get him out into the wet. They're trying to get him out into the marbles. Do you know, I reckon they're going to carry on. I think they feel we're going to risk it.
You're not going to be able to block a rider, though, who's 7 seconds faster than you. I mean, Marc Marquez a few laps ago passed Jorge Lorenzo like he was standing still. There's just a massive differential in lap time performance between the three of them. Cal Crutchlow now is up to 3rd place.
He's going to have a go. He's going to have a nibble at Rossi up the inside at turn 12. Thinks about it, then decides not to. Right. The same old question we've been asking for the last 5 laps. Are they going to come in?
But if they do now, though, Marquez will lead the race. Simple as that. If any of these riders come in, because Marquez now is within 20 seconds of the lead, if they come in now, Marquez is going to lead.
Ross is in.
Yeah, they're all getting. Well, Crutchlow
is in. Crutchlow, they're all
Miller
in.
Stayed out. Miller didn't come in. Miller's just rolled the dice here. Jack Miller's gone for it. He doesn't care. He's trying to get another victory. But what it will mean is Marc Marquez on the road will be in front of these guys.
Dovizioso first to get back on the bike and out. Valentino Rossi, a little bit of a slip. He's out also. We can see Dovizioso. Cal Crutchlow made a very, very good pit change there. Crutchlow could lead this group. Hector Barbara. Can you tell us what tyres Dylan saw? They all came in together. Jack Miller leads here in Germany.
Sorry guys, I saw with Dobby and Rossi, I saw the intermediates. With Cal Crutchlow, I'm going to have to confirm.
Many thanks.
Yeah, these guys have got to work out, get their tyres up to temperature. There's Scott Redding, look, who's already got his tyres right up to temperature. Cal Crutchlow out way wide. Marquez was 10 seconds behind Jack Miller over the line last time around. He's in 6th place at the moment. He's already got those slicks absolutely beautifully up to working temperature.
6.5 laps to go. What a season we are having. Every race throws up a different story.
Well, he's in 2nd place, of course, now, Marquez, because he was 19 seconds behind that lead group when they came in. Of course, with the time it took for those guys to come in, Marquez took 2nd place. He is only 6.5 seconds behind Jack Miller, who's on full wet tyres. And last time around, Miller was a 1:35.1. Marquez was 7 seconds faster. He'll be passing him on the next lap.
Is Miller going to come in? Is Miller going to stick it out? Miller is going to stick it out. He's gambling. And you know,
why not?
He's probably doing the right thing, isn't he?
Guys, so with Dobby, actually, apparently they changed to a rear slick, so he's intermediate front tyre. Rossi, as we said, is on the full intermediates. With Cal Crutchlow, I haven't made it down to the box yet, but from what I've heard in pit lane, it appears to be he's on full slicks.
Here's Marquez
He's
now.
closing for the kill.
Yeah,
he's closing for the kill.
Last time around, he was 8.2 seconds quicker than Jack Miller. You know what? Honda called it absolutely bang on in that flag-to-flag race in Misano. There was frustration from Valentino Rossi's crew. You know, they would have seen the lap times of Marquez. They would have been able to have calculated what lap Rossi needed to come in to get back out on track in front of Marquez. Marquez leads this German Grand Prix for the first time.
Brilliant strategy by Honda and by Marc Marquez. He obviously has to make the ultimate decision. But Marquez changed to slicks, not to intermediates, to slick tyres when everybody else was not coming in or coming in to change to intermediates.
And you could argue it was a risk, but just looking at Marquez's times on the slicks compared to Andrea Iannone, who we know is out on that full intermediate combination. Andrea Iannone last time around was a 1:29.101, so about 3 seconds off the pace of Marc Marquez. So there's a big gap as well between the slicks and the intermediates. What about the battle for the podium? Scott Redding, who's also came in very early on, he's now in 3rd place. He's 2.6 seconds clear of Andrea Dovizioso.
Crutchlow in 5th and Barbara Rossi Pedrosa. Jack Miller's just got to grit his teeth now, hasn't he, and just hang in there, because it's going to be very, very tough indeed.
Yeah, look, Rossi's out on the full intermediate combination. Marc Marquez and Repsol Honda pulled off an absolute genius decision here. Slicks is the way to go.
Yeah, Miller's just figured that he's now out on slicks.
It's a shame for Jack Miller, but in many ways you can see what he was trying to do. So up over the line they come, 5 laps to go. Marquez leading by a country mile. Barbara trying to get up the inside. Here comes Andre Iannone up the inside of Hector Barbara. Danny Pedrosa in there as well.
So yeah, it's Marquez from Reading and Dovizioso at the moment. Crutchlow's 4th.
Brilliant strategy, you've got to say, but it was a gamble, surely. That was a gamble, wasn't it, Dylan? To go out on slicks when everybody else was thinking about intermediate.
No, massive gamble, massive. But do you know what? Lots of people have actually said, you know, inters are never really that useful, because once the track is starting to dry, they generally recommend just go straight onto the slicks. And you know, it seems like Honda were the ones who kind of took that advice a little bit more literally than the others.
Great ride again by Scott Redding. Not quite the same as Assen. It started off in the wet, but now it's drying out. Came in at exactly the right time.
Just feels like Pisano history repeating itself. You know, Rossi and Yamaha just staying out on track for 2 or 3 laps too long.
It's a tremendous battle going on here. Iannone on the intermediates is absolutely flying. This is at turn 13. Up over the top they come.
Yeah, the difference between that group with like Miller and Rossi and Barbara is Iannone's got those intermediates nicely up to working temperature now. It's Marquez then from Reading, Dovizioso. Crutchlow's a second behind Dovizioso, so that battle for the podium not quite complete yet. Iannone here, this is the battle, well, this is Iannone 5th, Pedrosa 6th, and it's Miller 7th, or he was 7th. It's Rossi who's moved back into 7th place, but Iannone and Pedrosa are breaking away from Valentino Rossi. This is really damaging for Rossi's championship aspirations, with Marc Marquez disappearing off into the distance on those slick tyres. 48 points, the gap between Marquez and Lorenzo, and Rossi losing another 16 points.
Doubling his lead in the championship over Jorge Lorenzo, and he will thank his team and the thought that went into changing those tyres, and the brave decision by him to go out on those slick tyres. Scott Redding running in 2nd place. That would be his best ever MotoGP finish. 3rd in Assen, of course he finished 3rd in Misano in a similar sort of race, wasn't it, almost a year ago for Scott Redding.
Contrasting emotions for the Pramac Ducati team, of course. Danilo Petrucci crashing out of the lead earlier on when it was a full wet track. This is going to be a great battle between the 2 former Tech 3 Yamaha teammates, the 2 former factory Ducati teammates. There's a bit more than 16 points and a podium at stake here. There's a bit of pride at stake here between Dovizioso and Cal Crutchlow. Cal Crutchlow's not been on the podium since Argentina 2015.
And was it Iannone or Dovizioso he beat then, right at the end of the race? It was Iannone, wasn't it, on the Ducati.
Crutchlow fastest lap of the race, 1:26.539. He was almost a second quicker. Last time all moment for Crutchlow as he got on the gas coming out of the first corner. Bit of a warning sign there for the LCR Honda man.
We ride with Dovizioso at the bottom of the Omega curve, turn 3. They start the climb uphill now. Cal Crutchlow 35 right in his face, as Matt said. Teammates at Tech 3 Yamaha, teammates at Ducati. Big podium finish this could be for Cal Crutchlow. Over the top they come, down through turn 7, 2.5 laps to go. Marquez is going to win this one by a country mile. Crutchlow lines him up as they come up the hill, but Dovizioso is very, very strong up here.
I hope Cal Crutchlow's heavily pregnant wife Lucy's not watching this. Baby due in about 3 weeks' time for Crutchlow. He's all over the back of Andrea Dovizioso. They had a fair few last lap battles when they were teammates at Tech 3 Yamaha, and it was usually the Italian that came out on top.
Here comes Crutchlow. Is he going to make a turn at turn 12? Is he going to make a move? No. Dovizioso is very, very strong on the brakes. We switch back to Dovizioso. When they cross the line, they will be on their last lap. Here comes Crutchlow at turn 13.
He's made it up the inside at turn number 13. Andrea Dovizioso was really slow there. I'm not sure if he missed a gear or something coming through that turn 13. Dovizioso. Scott Redding's got to be careful as well because he's in 2nd place. Cal Crutchlow, 1:27.686 the last time around. That's the intermediate front tyre for Scott Redding. Crutchlow might be able to take a second place here, just like he did in 2013, behind Marc Marquez on that occasion as well.
The gap he pulled on Andrea Dovizioso once he got past him just shows you how fast he is going.
I'm not sure whether Dovizioso might have missed a gear or something there, Nick, because, yeah, I mean, Crutchlow was just able to blitz away from him. It could, of course, be the fact that they're on different tyre combinations.
I think it was because he was sort of pushed wide, had to go wide, and then he was on a very wet part of the track. I think he almost had to throttle off there.
Well, Crutchlow then.
Yeah, he's closing up on his great pal, great rival, Scott Redding. Redding chasing his second successive podium finish, third in Assen. There is Crutchlow. Dovizioso looked at quite a likely race winner while it was wet, now down in 4th place. Iannone, Pedrosa, Valentino Rossi running in 7th.
It wasn't so long ago that Marc Marquez was over 30 seconds off the win in this race. He's now nearly 21 seconds clear. And Crutchlow's now swarming all over the back of Scott Redding. Crutchlow passed Dovizioso last time around here at turn number 13. Marquez is on his last lap. No way through this time around for Crutchlow.
1 lap left of this amazing 30-lap German Grand Prix, round 9 of the championship. Side by side, the two British riders as they come into turn 1. Redding holds the advantage. No, he doesn't. Crutchlow is through. He did that to Paul Espargaro earlier, but these are going to run it wide. Brilliant, brilliant manoeuvre by Cal Crutchlow up into 2nd place.
Yeah, Crutchlow's just put in the fastest lap of the race, a 1:25.355. This is the battle for 6th place. It's Pedrosa from Rossi, Jack Miller up the inside of Hector Barbera, Lucio Cecchinello, LCR Honda team boss. He can't watch.
He's not watching Lucio Cecchinello. This is Crutchlow at his best. This is the old Crutchlow, isn't it?
Well, Redding will know that Crutchlow's got by far the superior pace, so Scott Redding will know, although he might be vulnerable, you know, to an attack from Andrea Dovizioso. 2nd place, Scott Redding can forget about that. Crutchlow is clearing off into the distance. Now it's all about Dovizioso and Redding. Redding's under severe pressure. Dovizioso's cut the gap down to under half a second. The battle for third's not over.
But salute this man and salute his team. This is the battle of Dovizioso now, trying to steal that 3rd place from Scott Redding. He's going to get up the inside. So they come into turn 12. Dovizioso through. Can Redding get back at him? No, he can't. Marc Marquez wins for the 7th successive time here in the Sachsenring and thanks his team. What a ride by Crutchlow.
Now Crutchlow equaling his best ever Grand Prix result in 2nd place. This late heartache for Scott Redding. He just ran out of grip at the end of that race. He's furious. Dovizioso back on the podium. Lucio Cecchinello rather, he can smile now. Here comes Andrea Iannone to take 5th place for the 2nd race in succession. Pedrosa from Jack Miller. Miller had a great last couple of laps. Valentino Rossi, a disconsolate 8th place for him.
Hector Barbera in 9th, disappointing for him. Alvaro Bautista, decent ride for him on the Aprilia. Top 10, they're the only ones to finish the race as we stand at the moment. Then we have Eugene Lavany, another good ride, 11th. Maverick Vinales in 12th place. But brilliant stuff from Marquez and from his team. They took the gamble after that big crash also in the morning warm-up, and it worked. What about poor old Jorge Lorenzo? Almost silent as he did come across the line.
Yeah, he'll be coming over the line to pick up 1 point. 15th place for Jorge Lorenzo.
There we go, 48-point lead in the championship. He has doubled his championship lead.
What a weekend for Marc Marquez. 7 wins in a row then here, 7th heaven for Marquez, 7 wins in a row now for Honda. And their tactics, yes, they were risky, but sometimes you do have to roll the dice. He got himself into a position in the championship where he could take a couple of risks with that 24-point cushion, but it was a masterstroke.
It was a masterstroke, Matt. And while others were coming in and changing to intermediates, he went out and put on the slicks.
Well, and we can clearly see from those TV shots, Dovizioso and Valentino Rossi quite clearly were being told to box because their teams could see what Marc Marquez's lap times were. They knew that Marquez at times in that race was 5-6 seconds a lap quicker, and they knew with the number of laps that were still remaining that if they stayed on the wets, well, the inevitable was going to happen, as it did. Great to see Cal Crutchlow back on the podium, the first time since the Termas Rio Hondo race in Argentina. What a couple of weeks it's going to be for Crutchlow. He's going home to experience one of the greatest moments of his life in about 3 or 4 weeks' time, the birth of his first child, and he'll be doing it with a bit of carver in his pocket.
Yeah, tremendous stuff. That was Crutchlow of old, wasn't it? Fast, determined. Poor old Scott Redding had a great performance into 4th place. Pipped on that last lap by Andrea Dovizioso. Scott Redding just off the podium. Cal Crutchlow 2nd. Dovizioso pinching that 3rd place right at the finish. But really, this race obviously runs to Marc Marquez and his team and his strategy and his bravery.
Tough to take for Scott Redding as well. He looked like he was well set for that 2nd place until the final couple of laps, mug late on by Crutchlow and Dovizioso. Frustration there for Valentino Rossi. Maverick Vinales and Alex Espargaro. It was another struggle for Suzuki, 12th and 14th place. Dovizioso, he led for long time when he was in the full wet conditions, but the track just dried up far too quickly for the full wets. It's going to be a bit of head scratching in that factory Yamaha garage because Rossi, well, pretty simple, he stayed out too long.
He did. Marquez took the gamble. The team took the gamble. They fitted slick tyres. I mean, who makes that decision? Intermediates or slicks? The rider certainly can't, can he? So that must have been a team decision. Yeah, magnificent. That's all you can say after seeing his big crash this morning. But that was Marquez and the team. That's why they've won those 2 consecutive World Championships. And that's why he's leading this World Championship by 48 points at the halfway stage. Oh, what a race.
First win since the Circuit of the Americas in Texas. It's going to be a gloomy journey to the beach for Rossi and Lorenzo. That picture says more than 1,000 words could ever do.
All about tyres and tyre choice and brilliant riding.
Yeah, you can see there it was a slick on the rear of Dovizioso's bike, a slick for Cal Crutchlow. We know it was full slicks for Marc Marquez. Cal Crutchlow's on the phone there, and I'm sure he's on the phone to his good lady back at home in the Isle of Man. Hold on to that baby for another couple of days, Lucy. Don't celebrate too soon.
He's not on his way. I mean, I think he's got to go to the Red Bull Ring, in Austria for a 2-day test. Yeah.
It's either a phone home or a phone to his accountant to bank the bonus.
Knowing Cal, it's both.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. It is his wife, Lucy Harris.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a congratulatory phone call. Bitter pill for Scott Redding to take, though.
Looked like he was going to finish in 2nd place, didn't it?
They're the worst results ever to happen when you can almost smell the carver, can't you? You're that close to the podium, and just to have it taken away. Dovizioso got him at the penultimate corner, and he just didn't have the grip to retaliate.
Here we go. This is Cal Crutchlow going past Scott Redding, and I think he probably felt a lap to go. Right, let's settle into this. This will be all right. I am going to finish still on the podium like I did at Assen. Some move at turn 1 by Cal Crutchlow. Not the first time in this race we've seen him ride almost round the outside at turn 1.
Well, even before the bike swap, Cal Crutchlow was absolutely charging when he was on the full wets. He came from so far back. It's going to take a while for Scott Redding to get over that one, I think. Bit of disappointment for him. He's just, all he can do is look at these podium celebrations and probably sit there and think, well, it should have been me.
Well, once again, the weather's played a massive part in the outcome as it did in Assen 3 weeks ago. This was a different story, and you've got to say it was Marc Marquez at his brilliant best, both on and off the track.
7 straight wins for Marc Marquez in front of this German crowd. Marquez, Crutchlow, Dovizioso, Redding, Iannone, Pedrosa, Miller, Rossi, Barber and Bautista. That was the top 10. Laverty again inside the points for the 9th race in a row. Vinales, Smith, Aleix Espargaro and Jorge Lorenzo were the point-scoring finishers. Nobody's going to break up that party tonight for the LCR Honda team.
No need to work out too much. The best independent team in that particular battle is LCR Honda with Lucio Cecchinello. Done it. Valentino Rossi, as always, explaining hard to the team what was going on. I think what Dylan said is probably right. They put box saying they are ready, but they did seem to take a long time to come in.
I think the picture that told the story for me was when the mechanics were just throwing their arms in the air in frustration because You know, I'm sure they would have had discussions about this kind of race after Misano last year when Rossi and Lorenzo stayed out a couple of times. Andrea Dovizioso, though, on the podium after a really dramatic German Grand Prix. He's talking to Dylan.
Well, Dobby, you were leading for such a long time. Obviously, you did still make it back onto the podium. But before you came in, did you think maybe you could make those wet tyres last and maybe still take the win?
Well, on the track, you can't understand everything. And I had the extra soft front. And the track became dry, and I was so concentrated to go fast, but to don't use a tire. And I didn't realize I have to change the bike maybe 2 laps early, and that can make the difference. I did a lot of laps in front, so this is nice, but to lose at the end is not the best. But the podium for us is really important to come back, and really thank you to the team because we work really hard, and this is a result for us, for them.
Thanks, Dobby. Congratulations.
Yeah, on the podium, looks like Cal Crutchlow's making his way to speak to Dylan. And this is the overtaking manoeuvre on Scott Redding at turn 12 on the last lap. Cal Crutchlow back on the podium.
Well, Cal, you have a very special moment coming up, and you've just celebrated it with a special moment here at the Sachsenring, back on the podium. It's been over a year, but where did you get this comfort from, especially in the wet? You looked very, very quick.
I was quick in the dry. I told everybody yesterday I was the 4th fastest guy, and I was correct. For those that were watching at home and misbelieving me with that. 13th on the grid. I knew it had to be a long race. I went for the harder option front tyre. I don't think many others had the balls to do it, because in the first laps was really not dangerous, but difficult to manage, especially with the Honda. But I knew I would get quicker, same as Assen. It was about keeping your head. 30 laps around here is a long time. I pitted way too late. I didn't look my board 1 lap. I followed the guys in front of me and I was catching them. I caught Valle, I caught Dovi, who was leading. And I didn't think anybody could beat us even if we stayed out. So I took the gamble. I probably should have stayed out. I think even if I stayed out, I would have been in a good position. But thanks to my team, you know, the GVLCR Honda team have done a great job this weekend. I'm disappointed not to have my wife here. It's the second race in 7 years, 9 years she's not been to. Yeah, so it's disappointing not to have her here, but she's at home keeping our little baby warm in the belly, and it's coming out soon, so we look forward to that and we're excited.
Thank you, Cal. Congratulations.
No better way to celebrate the forthcoming birth with that brilliant. But Marc Marquez, what a brilliant ride by him and that Repsol Honda team. What a gamble.
Well, Mark, win number 7 here at the Sachsenring. Obviously, it looked extremely complicated, especially first in the wet, but then you were one of the first to go onto the slicks. How difficult was it to make that decision?
Yeah, honestly, it was really difficult because, you know, on wet tires, I think I chose the wrong tire in front for my riding style. I go to the extra soft, like the others, like Valentino and Jorge, but for me, I was struggling a lot. I had a big moment with the rain tires, but then I say, okay, this will be flag-to-flag race because getting drier and drier. And then when I see the minimum possibility, I go in, change the bike, because then, you know, it's easier to take the rhythm. Okay, I take a lot of risks the first laps, but then later when I see that I was first, leading the race by 20 seconds, then it was really nice these last laps.
Thank you very much, Mark. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely summed it up, didn't he? Absolutely summed it up, but it was a gamble to come in and put the slicks on. Most of those early ones that came in put intermediates on, didn't they?
Yeah, you can see there as well. Andrea Dovizioso had the intermediate front. It was Crutchlow and Marquez that went for the full slick options. It was a gamble, but sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, it was a masterstroke by Marc Marquez. It's all about 7s today for Marc Marquez because it's his 7th win in a row here from a 7th successive pole position, and that win was his 53rd of his Grand Prix career, and that means now he's outright the 7th most successful rider in Grand Prix history. He's just gone one ahead then of British legend Phil Reed. He's now only 1 win behind Aussie legend Mick Doohan. Key moment of the race, this one.
Oh, absolutely, and he comes. And we're thinking, right, is it intermediate tyres? And we had a good look. First we thought it might be an intermediate front and a slick rear. Then we realised, no, it's a slick front and rear. And it was still pretty wet out there, wasn't it?
Yeah. Just look at the way, I mean, on the slick tyres, he was coming through the pack. That's the way that he took the lead from Jack Miller, who you can't blame Jack Miller for staying out on the full wet tyres. He had absolutely nothing to lose, but the difference in speed between Marquez and those riders out on the full wets at one stage in the race was as much as 8 seconds a lap. What a win. I mean, we said Assen was a turning point for the championship, but that was absolutely huge. 48 points clear of Lorenzo, and like you say, Nick, doubling his advantage going into the summer break. It really is advantage Marquez now, halfway through the season.
Well, we spoke to Dovizioso and Crutchlow. Obviously, we'll speak to them all later on, but they all said the same thing, didn't they? They came in too late.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's very easy sitting here in a commentary box or even in pit lane looking at a timing screen. Not so easy when you're out there trying to keep the bike upright in those conditions. And they obviously just didn't realise what sort of laps that Marquez was putting on those slick tyres. Dovizioso disappointed, I think. Thought he could have won if the rain had remained, the track had remained wet, but it was good to get that Ducati onto the podium.
You think the riders, though, would have had some discussions with their teams about this very eventuality, you know, just in case, you know, there was a rider that had come in like Marquez did there and switched to slick tyres. The reason why Dovizioso and Rossi were getting boxed on their pits was because their team could clearly see. They were relaying information to their riders saying, look, now's the time to come in because we know that this man, Marc Marquez, has gone out on slick tyres and he's lapping so fast that he's going to be coming past you if you don't come in and change tyres. So
we'll chat now between Marc Marquez and Andrea Dovizioso. There is Cal Crutchlow. As you say, desperate to get home to see wife Lucy in the Isle of Man, but he's got a 2-day test. The majority of the riders at the new Red Bull Ring in Austria, new for MotoGP. 3 weeks' time we'll be there. Look forward to it. Almost a sellout. Massive interest in Austria. We see races like that. You understand why, don't you? And the other races we saw in the rain, Moto 3 and Moto 2. Yeah, the weather always throws something up, but it brings out the same person at the Sachsenring, doesn't it? And it's Marc Marquez.
Heaven's opening can't stop it from being 7th heaven for Marquez here. Dovizioso then back on the podium. Wow, I thought I just had a double take there. He's back on the podium actually for the first time since the opening round in Qatar.
Yeah. Second place, Cal Crutchlow on the podium for the first time since Argentina last year.
Yep, so that was
the LCR Honda. But Marc Marquez wins here for the 7th successive time to open up a massive 48-point lead in the World Championship at the halfway stage of the season. No one of that team is smiling. They played a big part in that victory.
So it's a 7th successive constructor trophy for HRC here at the Sachsenring.
So Repsol Honda, and Honda take the manufacturers. Statement is for social affairs and consumer protection. We'll make the presentation first to Andrea Dovizioso. First podium since Qatar, did you say, Matt? That opening round of the championship.
And a bit of a milestone for Ducati, because that was their 100th Premier Class podium finish. Almost half of those taken by Casey Stone, a 42 in fact.
Second place, great to see him back on the podium. First podium of the season, first podium since Argentina last season. It's Cal Crutchlow. But on the top step once again here at the Sachsenring for the 7th successive time. A master stroke of riding in difficult conditions from Marc Marquez. Congratulations to Marc Marquez. He'd be off on a summer break in very good spirits. A 48-point lead in the World Championship. British fans celebrate. Well, we've had British fans have had two successive podium finishes in MotoGP. Scott Redding in Assen and now Cal Crutchlow, second here in Germany. Champagne flows. Crowd of 93,000 here today. They've been richly entertained in very, very difficult conditions in all three classes. And the German Grand Prix, new contract has been signed, will continue to at least 2021. And the addition of Finland to the calendar in 2018. Final pictures. I think Marc Marquez is not going to the test. The Red Bull Ring, Andrea Dovizioso and Cal Crutchlow are. GoPro camera from Marc Marquez's trophy films the action. And once again, the weather played a massive part in the outcome. So, new territory for many people. Comparatively short trip. Got 3 weeks to make it to Spielberg in Austria, the Red Bull Ring. Enormous anticipation by the riders and by the fans in Austria. Virtually a sellout already. MotoGP returns to Austria. We can't wait to be there for round 10 of the MotoGP World Championship. Familiar sight here at the Sachsenring. Clouds around from the helicopter. Rain has played a big part in this. Final result, Marc Marquez wins his 7th successive race here at the Sachsenring, his 3rd Grand Prix victory of the season. In 2nd place, Cal Crutchlow, first podium for over a year. Andrea Dovizioso, just his 2nd podium finish. Scott Redding so close to his 2nd successive podium. Andrea Iannone, Danny Pedrosa, Jack Miller, great ride by the Australian. Disappointment for Valentino Rossi. And Hector Barbera in 9th place. Alvaro Bautista, good ride by him on the Aprilia. More points for Eugene Lafferty in 11th. Maverick Vinales disappointing in 12th. Bradley Smith disappointing in 13th, as was Alessio Spargo in 14th. Yes, and would you believe it? Jorge Lorenzo, the current world champion, a single point in 15th place. It's been that sort of weekend. You can see Fallers, Polo Spargo, Danilo Petrucci when he was leading in the rain. Championship, well, he's doubled his lead in the championship this afternoon. Marc Marquez, a 48-point lead over Jorge Lorenzo. Rossi, a further 59 points down. Then Pedrosa, Vinales, Polo Spargo, Hector Barbera, Andrea Iannone, Andrea Dovizioso. Lafferty, what a season he's having. Scored points in every round in 10th. Alessio Spargo drops 2. Scott Redding goes up 2. Jack Miller 13th. Cal Crutchlow moves up 4. Stefan Bradl down 3. Missed the race. Bradley Smith down 1. And Alvaro Bautista down 1. Danilo Petrucci could have won and he's down 1. No points for him. And Kelly Pirro, Tito Rabat, Loris Baz and Yoni Hernandez. Constructors' Championship, it's mighty tight. 1 point between Yamaha and Honda. Then Ducati, Suzuki and Aprilia. Halfway stage, 1 point between the two big Japanese manufacturers. Team Championship, no great surprise here. Repsol Honda lead the way. 33-point advantage over Movistar Yamaha, then X-Star Suzuki 3rd, Ducati 4, Monster Tech 3, Yamaha 5, Octo Pramac Ducati 6, Avintia Racing in 7th place. So Repsol Honda, as I say, do lead the way. Polo Spargo, the Independent Riders Championship leader, although for the first time this season he failed to score any points. Getting closer, Hector Barbera, more points for him. 7 points behind. And Eugene Lafferty absolutely flying in third place. Redding, Miller, Crutchlow, Bradle, Smith and Batista. Further down, Petrucci, Pirro, Rabat, Baz and Yoni Hernandez. So, of course, the rain has now stopped. It's all drying out. But we're on our way home. Many of the MotoGP riders and teams are on their way to the Red Bull Ring in Austria for a special test. But we return to Grand Prix action in 3 weeks' time. Round 10 of the MotoGP World Championship at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. What a weekend it's been in the Sachsenring. "30 laps of pure drama to savour before we see you again in 3 weeks' time. Enjoy the break."